This BMW paint is trashed. I want you to take a look at it. You can see I've got a blue tape line here, but there are swirls, there are bug etchings, and normally my go-to combo, DIY detail, dual action 25mm machine, so you have a nice aggressive stroke, with our wool pad and gold standard polish. Normally I can one-step hard paint like this, and it's amazing. I've done test spots, guys. It's not cutting it today. This demands a two-step. So I'm gonna try a couple of methods here. I'm gonna cut with a DA, finish with a rotary, and then I'm gonna cut with a rotary and finish with a DA. Let's just see what the results are like. We teach you to cut with a dual action polisher and the wool pad and finish with a rotary. That usually works great, but you can also do it this way. So I just wanna go side by side. Basically, I just need to shave down some of this clear coat. We don't wanna remove all of it. In my Hawk Pro detailing days, I would have taken a dual action sander out and been here for 40 hours. And there's just only a finite amount of clear coat. You don't wanna be that aggressive with clear coat. But there are times when a one step doesn't cut it, at least for me. That's what we're gonna address here today. So let's have fun. My gold standard compound, I've literally run out of it. So I'm trying Detail Co., their compound. It's called Endgame, 16-ounce bottle with our dual action polisher, DIY detail wool pad. Enough talking, let's get polishing. So I'm gonna do the same thing we do with the DIY detail gold standard polishing system. I'm gonna clean in a pad washer with rinseless wash as my pad cleaner. Now I don't have any fancy dispersing method, so I'm gonna do like 3 drops to prime my pad here. And we're gonna compound on, let's say speed 3. Speed 3, Endgame compound with a dual action. Couple of thoughts here. Endgame has an incredibly long working time, which I love. Gold standard compound, usually it cuts aggressively and then you're done. This is kind of fun to let it work quite a long time. I've got a lot of spent clear coat in my pad, so I'm gonna clean this pad obviously. But let's bring it in. I'm gonna wipe this off. Let's take a look at it and we'll go section by section. I'll turn the lights off. We'll put the light on my scan grip on my head and we can just see what it looks like after wipe off compared to the other side. Okay folks, all the lights are off in the shop. And I'm just using a rinseless wash dampened towel here. Just cuts through the polish residue so easily. Do you wanna use a dry towel? Go ahead, do what you wanna do. Here's my dry towel. I really like the rinseless wash dampened towel first. Now this is the section that we have not polished. Of course we washed, we decontaminated and everything, but this is how nasty the swirls were. And we've done a pretty good job, right? Like, it's still kind of nasty around the edges. I was real gentle around the edges, but this is why I told you a one step wouldn't cut it. I'm using a wool pad, folks. A wool pad, and I don't think I was real aggressive along this edge. You can kind of see how nasty that is. So, boy, I'd like to get more defect removal. Again, this is what I'm talking about. This paint was so hammered. Trust me, when I say I tried to one-step this with our gold standard polish and the wool compound, it's because I did, but it left this behind. Now, is this still shiny? Absolutely. Remember where we started, just swirled the heck. I think this is maybe a 2015, right? So talking about 10 years, it lives outside. Certainly brightened it up. So we're gonna jewel this with the jeweling pad. But I think first, let's hit this with the rotary so we can kind of compare what does the rotary cut look like versus the DA cut. And again, we're not using the whole DIY detail system. I know I could crank the machine up and I could heat the paint up, but I don't want to do that, right? I want to keep this super safe. Like maybe you're learning to polish out there. You don't want to mess anything up. You don't want to burn paint. You can still do this and you're totally safe. This is not a super aggressive two-step. Now that's a bug etching that I'd have to wet sand out. And the customer, we're not doing that, right? We just want to preserve this vehicle. He actually loves this car already, so we don't need to go anything crazy. He loved it already, right? We're just gonna brighten up the paint for him. And I didn't get super aggressive around this tape line either. And that's one thing about tape lines. I'm gonna have to polish this whole section again, but it might be kind of fun. So anyways, let's go ahead, hit this with a rotary and reassess. Well, I just spilled half of the Endgame compound on the ground, so it's time to get some new compound in the garage. You know, you can put your bead down if you want to show off. I guess I could do that. I'll put my bead down. I don't know. Also, I was gonna just do the pad as normal, but I've done both where you just put the compound on the rotary or do the bead. We can pick the bead up here. This is our wool cutting pan designed specifically for the rotary. This is the DIY Detail cord-free dual action polisher. All of these you can find on thehouseofrags.com. Use promo code NICKATNIGHT to save 10% off any of these products. They're great. And that would give me a little boost as well. So just appreciate any help you can give me. We've got Endgame compound on the paint and a lightly dampened pad on the rotary. Here's why I like the rotary. I can tilt into edges, right? There's a concave here on the deck lid. Trunk, whatever you call it. There's a concave, I can kind of lean into that. I know Ivan always says to polish flat. For some reason, I always tilt it, so I'm not doing it the official DIY way. This is just what I default to. My habits are not necessarily good. They're just the ones that I use. They're the ones that I used to do. What I love about our pad, you know, flat or tilted, it keeps it so cool. You're not getting the paint hot. And even if you are getting a little warm, that's okay. You just don't want to get it hot. So I'm right between speed 2 and 3 right now. So the paint is barely warm. It's definitely a little bit warmer than it was on this. I'm actually looking at this deck lid and it's actually quite shiny. So I think when we think about shiny scratches, we've actually achieved it here. I just got in my head about how nasty this paint was. Couple things. I'm at speed 2 to 3 and I'm just watching for the compound residue. I always want to make sure there's compound residue. That's why I like this light. If I stop seeing compound residue, I stop. That means I have no liquid and no buffing liquid left and I could be burning the paint. So as long as I have buffing liquid and I can see the half circles from the rotary in the paint and it's not getting too hot, I feel pretty good. Now, there's the whole don't put clean polish on a dirty pad thing, right? But just to make this kind of continue to stay wet a little bit, I might add a splat of rinseless wash. Again, this is like Hawk Pro Detailing Nick of 2019. I don't even know if I'm supposed to do this, but in my head, now I've got a reactivated liquid again on the paint, and I'm gonna keep cranking. I notice it's darker over here. I have a little more compound left. I might come back over here, grab some more, and keep it moving. Again, just trying to do this all with the amount of compound on for this one section size. And then as I finish out my rotary section, I'm gonna go to speed 1 and no pressure flat pad. I wanna make sure that whatever my final pass is, I'm leveling whatever swirls, because you talk about those rotary holograms or swirls. I've inflicted some of those. I know I'm doing that, right? That's the scratch pattern I'm leaving. I wanna go nice and chill, even on a couple passes, just even everything out, so my next refining stage is super easy. And boy, this paint would 100% be a candidate for wet sanding if the client wanted it. Again, it's an older vehicle. We want to preserve the clear coat. It is so nasty in terms of just deep gouges. But I'm going to wipe this off and I'm going to bring you in. I would be so curious to know which side looks better so far. We're not done. We are not done. I think I like the rotary side better, but I want to do an actual side-by-side comparison. Let's turn the lights off. Let's take a look. Okay, dual action compound with Endgame. We're gonna go to rotary with Endgame. So pay attention to shine and scratch pattern, right? And remember, I didn't get as aggressive on these edges. Shine and scratch pattern. Honestly, guys, I think the other side is shinier, because this stage is gonna, do you see these little light, hazy holograms in there? I have to refine this rotary step. But I think, it's hard to tell. I think we got more stuff out in terms of deeper scratches with the rotary, but it's not as shiny. See, I didn't get all that aggressive up into these edges. When you get close to edges, folks, that's where paint is thinner. And you can see here, I didn't really compound over to that side much. So you can see it's a little bit weaker in terms of the overall correction on the edges, but you know, here we are. I did the center pretty good, center of the hood or the deck lid, and then let's go over to here. I mean, it looks pretty good. I'd say there's some deeper stuff on the DA side that I didn't get to, but it looks shinier. Whereas I got to the deeper stuff here, but it for sure is hazier. You could argue that like endgame on hard white paint could almost be a one-step because I don't see a lot of haze there. But we're gonna two-step this with the jeweling pad here, and we'll go from there. I just walked to set up the camera and it's pretty cool. You can actually see noticeable gloss on the deck lid. So no matter what here, we have got incredibly shiny paint. Jeweling pad on the DA side, we're gonna jewel this puppy up. And by the way, you could absolutely jewel both sides and be done, but with rotary swirls, I usually like to use a dual action polisher after to finish it. So that's why I'm gonna use actually the dual action method to remove the rotary swirls, whereas the jeweling pad is not that aggressive. We don't have much to remove. We're just going after extreme gloss here. So you can run it on speed 1, speed 2, depending on the speed. So this is actually just very low RPM. This is 600 RPM at speed 1. So if I'm ever just like, did I leave really deep stuff in there? Sometimes I hang out on speed 2 or 3 for the first couple of passes, then I go down to speed 1. But really speed 1 is the way to jewel. Like if I were trying to jewel this away without using my DA, I might start on speed 3 to try to inflict just a little bit more of a scratch pattern and then come down to 1. I think for here, we're just gonna go speed 1 and jewel it out. I think that's gonna look phenomenal. Now we're gonna go on the other side. Okay, you might think I'm crazy. You might say, Nick, why don't you grab your yellow waffle pad? Isn't that gonna get you the most shine and the most gloss? I'm telling you, I know hard paint. This one-step method with the wool DA cutting pad and our gold standard polish is absolutely money. It is so good at removing defects and giving you gloss. I know I can one-step this on this side. Also, I've polished half the vehicle and finished with this, and I know it's good. So you can often get away with just one-stepping with a wool pad. Also, if I was too tilty with my rotary, I might be leaving some nasty stuff in the paint. That's why I want this dual action wool cutting pad. I want to remove any holograms. We are leaving a 0 hologram finish today. If there's a little bit of micro marring that can come from a DA, you're not gonna see it on hard white paint. I can kind of promise you that. So this is what I'm actually finishing with to ensure defect removal of the rotary pattern. I'm so curious to know, will that rotary jeweling on this side give me the gloss and shine advantage? Or will this sort of like deeper cut be the advantage? I'm gonna cut this on speed 2 to 3, really slow, no pressure, just like here, no pressure. Again, that was flat pad, no pressure with the rotary. And we're right here between speed 2 and 3. Dual action polisher, 3 passes. You know, as I'm doing this test, I'm like, there's no way that it's equal because I cut with the rotary and then with the wool cutting pad. So I'm getting more cut here. I'm not trying to say one is better than the other or this is a perfectly safe test. I'm just showing you kind of my process and like how I think, right? There's really no right way to do this or wrong way to do it. And that's why at DIY Detail, we have a rotary and a rotary cutting pad and a compound, because that's obviously something that a lot of people enjoy doing, is cutting with a rotary. Okay, so I've done the rinseless wash, damp, and towel. I'm wiping this off. I'm wondering what you see in the camera. What do y'all think so far? I'm wondering if this is gonna have deeper scratches but higher gloss. I'm so fascinated. So sometimes you just gotta stand back 5 feet. Sometimes you gotta turn the shop lights off and do the light on the paint. And sometimes you gotta remove the tape line. So let's remove the tape line, because it is the internet and it's kind of fun. And I hate tape lines because, you know, they could pull off clear coat on an old vehicle like this. So we don't want to get too aggressive with the tape line stuff. That's the last time I'm going to do this for a while, hopefully. But it is kind of cool to see the tape line because it reminds you, oh yeah, what did that paint look like before? Let's turn the shop lights off. Let's bring you in. And I'm so curious to know what you think. All right, guys. I mean, this is very glossy as my heater kicks in here. This is very glossy and I can see the defects, but the owner, he parks this outside, he loves his car. I don't think he once mentioned a defect bothering him. Let's scooch over. I mean, it's shiny scratches, right? It's exactly what we teach. Let's scooch over, scooch over, scooch over. I want to see this tape line. There it is. Remember? This is what it looked like before. This is what we achieved. Shiny scratches, amazing to the visual eye. No protection yet. All right. Now, let's go to the right of the tape line. Fewer scratches, and like I said, I don't notice any dual action haze. Now, the one thing you might say is, does it look like this side potentially is a little less glossy? Let's follow this light. Ooh, tape line. I honestly think this side has a deeper gloss, which we could just fix by three-stepping the other side, right? And doing rotary. But I feel like this has deeper scratch removal. Let's be fair. Let's see where I missed and didn't get as well. Right around the edges, I could do a lot better scratch removal work, right? Or removing the appearance of scratches. But right here, boom, and boom. Now I want to turn the light on and look at this from a real world perspective. Okay, no lights, no BS. That looks shiny as heck. I mean, that whole deck lid looks incredibly shiny. Do I see deep scratches? Sure. I see them. I'm sure you see them too. Now I'm gonna visual eye this. I really like this right side. I'm looking in the lights, I really like it. I see that center. Boy, it almost seems like deeper stuff, more gloss. Less deep stuff, a little bit less gloss, but negligible. I kind of like this side better. I want to know what everyone else thinks in the comments. So there you have it, folks. I spilled half a bottle of Endgame compound. I didn't spill any gold standard polish. This is goated. This stuff works great. All these products are available on thehouseofrags.com. Let me triple remind you here. What I did here, anybody could do without fear of burning clear coat, unless this was like razor thin paint. What I know about this paint is rock hard. Hard as a rock. This stuff didn't want to budge. And the only way to get this deep stuff out, in my opinion, personally, is not to put it on speed sticks with a rotary and heat it up. That is bad for clear coat. It would be to wet sand and then compound and then polish. I don't wet sand paint anymore. That's not what I'm getting paid to do. I don't think it's a super safe thing to do, and it's not what the customer asked to do. I think from where you stand here and what you see, these both look fantastic. I think it kind of goes back, if you ever saw the video with me and Pan and Rick from Rad Garage and Cars with Keeve and Brian from Fab, Ivan and I both did half the vehicle, right? And you can make an argument this side was better and this was Ivan's side and he finished in 2 hours and I finished in 12 hours, whatever. The vote was 50-50. It was a half and half vote. To the naked eye, these both look great. They're different approaches. Sometimes it's nice to know the different ways to think about paint and then choose your own adventure. Sometimes it feels great to just follow the DIY detail way, which is normally what I do, but when I couldn't one-step it in my favorite way, I wanted to get creative and I'm like, this could make a cool video. So it's fun to hold a rotary in your hand, to buff out paint. It's also fun to polish it and jewel it with our jeweling pad. What do you prefer? Write it down in the comments below and don't forget to save 10% on whatever product you want from thehouseofrags.com, of course, with promo code NICK@night.